Nick Cannon built a career on charm, humor, and confidence. But behind the laughter, his 6-year marriage to Mariah Carey, one of the most famous love stories of the 21st century, wasn't the fairy tale it appeared to be. What he's revealing now is raw, brutally honest, and will change everything you think you know about love. This is the untold truth about what it really takes to love, lose, and learn in a high-stakes relationship. The hidden struggle. For many, Nick and Mariah's marriage was the ultimate dream. But Nick has confessed, it wasn't just a love story. It was a battle, a constant internal struggle between who he was and who he thought he needed to be. Her career was in a different stratosphere. And me? I felt like I was just a participant in her world. What happens when a man marries one of the world's biggest icons while he's still searching for his place in the world? Nick calls it the toughest classroom he's ever known. The beginning. It all started when Nick was in his 20s. Mariah was already a global superstar. Her music, her voice, her empire, all on another level. Nick was on the rise but wasn't quite there yet. Their chemistry was undeniable. It all started on a music video set. Their whirlwind romance led to a secret wedding in the Bahamas, with no public announcement. Just them, a small ceremony, and a lifetime ahead. Nick Cannon said, "It wasn't just a wedding. I married the biggest star in the world." But early on, things moved fast. Tattoos on their honeymoon, twins on the way. To the outside world, they were a picture-perfect couple. But behind the glamour, cracks began to form. The performance. On the red carpets, they were magic, one of Hollywood's most glamorous duos. But behind closed doors, it wasn't as flawless. As Nick put it, the marriage became a performance. Once the cameras were off, reality set in. Nick Cannon told in an interview, "After our twins were born, I felt like I was fading into the background. She commanded every room we walked into, and I was just carrying the bags." Their marriage became an act, one in which he struggled to play his part. The public loved their story, but behind the scenes, it was starting to feel less like love and more like duty. Finding himself, Nick began to question his place in it all. He threw himself into work, hosting gigs, radio shows, anything to feel like himself again, but nothing seemed to fill the gap. At home, Mariah lived in her own creative world, summoning orchestras at 3 a.m., while Nick returned home, worn out from a day's work. They were living in the same house, but in entirely different worlds. Resentment grew. Their realities were so different that it was like they were on separate planets, orbiting each other, never really connecting. The breaking point. The breaking point came at their twins' first birthday. Nick envisioned a simple, laid-back backyard barbecue, but Mariah had something much bigger in mind, a private theme park. Cut to photos of Mariah's grand plans, Nick looking frustrated in the background. Nick realized something that night. I don't even recognize this life anymore. The gulf between their wants, their needs, and their visions for the future had grown too wide. Nick Cannon has told in an interview, "That was the moment I knew things had to change, and soon after I asked for a separation." Months later, backstage at Radio City, just before a holiday special, Nick received divorce papers. He signed them, smiled, and walked on stage. One final performance in a marriage that had become a farce. The aftermath. Post-divorce, Nick embraced what he now calls radical honesty. Therapy helped him reframe his life, but co-parenting Mariah's twins taught him the importance of communication, of balance, and most importantly, of being true to himself. Nick reflected on how he'd changed. Mariah needs a certain kind of partner. I wasn't that person. There was no bitterness, just clarity, growth, and a newfound understanding of love. The lessons today, Nick lives by 3 guiding principles. Show up when you say you will. Your word is your bond. Tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. The truth might hurt, but it's better than living a lie. Never shrink yourself for someone else. Don't ask someone to shrink for you either. Nick teaches his children a valuable lesson. Love isn't a castle. It's a renovation. It's messy, it's expensive, but if you're willing to build something real, it's worth it. Nick Cannon says, "The weight I lost in blame and guilt, it mattered more than the pounds." The real story. Nick Cannon's marriage to Mariah Carey wasn't a failure. It was a crucible, a life-changing experience that burned away the illusions of love and forced him to confront harsh truths. The real story? It's not about the fairy tale. It's about what happens when you learn to love yourself first, before you try to love anyone else. Nick's greatest lesson? The most important love story you'll ever write is the one where you don't lose yourself in the process. If you liked our video, like and subscribe to our channel.